So I wanted to share with you guys that are brand new to the space, just a few slides on really what blockchain is, what our main project and fastest growing project in our ecosystem is, and how you could potentially benefit financially by helping this project go to the masses. And blockchain, you sometimes hear it referred to as Web 3.0. And again, I wasn't really concerned on the technology side, but once I sat down with Kathy Roberts, the first president of Discover Bank, one of the original founders of Discover Card, the CEO of the banking blockchain, I just said, okay, I need to really dig in and learn what's going on, what people are doing. I'm gonna mute everybody real quick so we don't have any background noise, and I can unmute later. So I wanted to see what's going on, and then how can I be a part of it? And if you look at society as a whole, just humans as a whole, I think we can look at the different breakthroughs in technologies and advancements, and I kind of look at it like closing gaps. And there's a few times in history where society has closed gaps and basically just launched the human race forward aggressively. And I think that one of the first gaps I look at is the knowledge gap. Because if you go back into the 1400s, prior to the Gutenberg press, the printing press being invented, if you weren't royalty or you weren't nobility, extremely wealthy, you didn't have books. You didn't have access to knowledge. Then the printing press was kind of something that evened the playing field, and all of a sudden, everybody could have access to knowledge, and it sprung the world into the Renaissance, really, and it pushed the world further. And if you look at, into the 1800s, I would say the combustion engine, which come out of Austria, Germany, the first versions of the combustion engine, it closed what I would call the power gap. Because again, prior to that invention, if you didn't have horses, mules, oxen, you weren't going to really develop land because you didn't have the firepower to do so. The engine was a great equalizer. And now today, some of us have more horsepower in our garage than kings and queens had a few hundred years ago. And so that sprung the world really through into the industrial age. And then if you look at the internet, I would say that closed what I would call the distance gap. Certainly, this is a good example. I'm in Puerto Rico. I think Byron's in California, Marius in Chicago. And we do meetings with people in Australia, New Zealand, Vietnam, Japan, South America, Africa, Asia. It doesn't matter, all over the world. And it's the internet. You can share information real time, and it made the world a much smaller place. It closed that distance gap. And when I look at blockchain, if the internet allows us to share information globally, real time, without the need of a third party, without having to wait on someone, blockchain allows us to share value real time without a third party. And I say it closes what I would call the trust gap. And I won't get too in depth into the technology side, but at the end of the day, if you want to send value, like if I wanted to wire, let's say Byron and you guys put together a project in the real estate space, and Marius and I said, hey, we'll put $1 million each in. If we wanted to do that tonight, it's too late. 9:20 p.m., my banks are closed. And so I have to wait till tomorrow. Well, Saturday, they don't do any wires over the weekend. So I got to wait till Monday. And I can't go to Banco Popular. I don't keep $1 million here in the Puerto Rican bank. Bank of America, I've got quite a bit in. And the People's Bank, I got quite a bit in Pratt, Kansas. The problem with Bank of America, they actually make you walk in to send a wire. No matter how much money you keep in there, I can't call and do a wire. I have to go in and physically do it. And there ain't one in Puerto Rico. Now, luckily, People's Bank in Pratt, my buddy's the president there. I can call them and initiate a wire. And so Monday morning, I initiate the wire. And let's say you guys are working a project and it's in Asia and you want the money to go to a bank in Asia. Well, it might be 5 days before that wire shows up and hits. And it's probably going to cost me $60, $75 to get it out. And that's fine. That's life. That's normal. But if Byron said, you know what, Tony, just send us Bitcoin, and he gave me his Bitcoin wallet, I could send $1 million worth of Bitcoin right now. It's a hypothetical. I don't want to do it for real. I'm sure Byron's all right with it. But if I send it right now, it could be there within 2-3 minutes, transaction completely completed, done, settled. And I'd pay a fee. I've done $1 million plus transaction and paid $1.27 in fees on the Bitcoin blockchain network. And so it's a much better way to share value real time. But it doesn't just have to be currency. It could be my health records. It could be clinical trials. A lot of us are old enough to remember when cigarettes weren't bad for you. They had studies, it de-stresses you, it curbs your appetite, doesn't cause any major health issues. And it's like, they would start a study with 1,000 people, 200 of them over 5 years would end up with some kind of emphysema, asthma, lung cancer, whatever. They'd remove a couple hundred people from the study. 5 years later, they'd remove another couple hundred people from the study. And then they'd print this 10-year study with 600 members. And so what the blockchain does is it makes all that information available from day one. And so we could see the study. We could see that, oh man, they just removed 200 people from this study. Let's go look at the data from those 200 people. Oh, it would be anonymous. We wouldn't see their names, but it'd be like, oh, person number 742 was diagnosed with asthma. Person number 18, lung cancer. Person number 12, emphysema. Like, no wonder they removed these people from the study. And so that blockchain transparency creates trust that centralized computing and centralized control doesn't create. And so if you look at that blockchain technology in terms of what I call Web 3.0, it's just transitioning from a Web 2.0 environment where the internet is centralized, control of data is centralized, into a Web 3.0 environment where it's decentralized. And if you position yourself in the middle of a shift like that, it can be extremely lucrative. And I think back to when I transitioned, if you look at Web 1.0, where it was really the military, very tech savvy people, IBM, Microsoft were involved in the internet back then in the 80s, early 90s. Then you get into the mid 90s. I remember my first real transition on the internet from Web 1 to Web 2 was using a Hotmail account. I was in college. I'd email my mom, hey, I'm thinking of coming home this weekend. Are you and dad going to be in town? I'd send an email, and a few minutes later, I'd get an email back. And I remember thinking to myself, even back then, I was like, man, this is way better than mailing a letter. I'd have to really plan out if I wanted to ask by letter. At that time, I did have a cell phone for emergency use in case I got in trouble or in a wreck or something. My mom wanted me to have a cell phone. I was only allowed to use it for emergencies, or if you're old enough, you remember I could call after 9 p.m. Nights and weekends were free back then. But if you didn't, I was on roaming in college. And so it was probably like 75 cents a minute if I called outside of the nights and weekends, and I would get in big trouble. And so I was just like, man, email, this is really convenient. This is way better than mailing a letter. Then I remember in 2002, I had a younger kid. He was making fun of me because I was at the office in Austin, Texas, and I was writing a check. And he goes, what are you doing? I was like, I'm paying my Visa card off. And he's like, why don't you just pay it online? And I just remember, I was like, I don't know, man. I just always written a check. He goes, bro, it's way better, man, way easier. And so I was like, all right. So he showed me, went to the website, I got online, set up the bank account. And then I remember hitting submit. And it was like a message came up and it's like, your payment's being processed. And I was like, man, this is amazing. I was like, I'm never going to mail another check again for the rest of my life. And so those were early shifts into Web 2.0. And then obviously, you've got the Facebook, you've got the smartphone, you've got, projects where you can do video conferencing. Like the world is just advanced rapidly because of the Web 2.0 revolution. And if we could go back into the mid 90s, knowing what we know now, all of us would head out to meet Byron in California, and we'd all go from SoCal up to Silicon Valley, and we'd start hunting for, Elon Musk and the PayPal guys and Peter Thiel and go, you guys need money? We'll give you money. We'd find Jeff Bezos and be like, hey, you need money? We'll give you money. We'll help you start Amazon. We'd be looking for for Sergey Brin and Google getting started up at Stanford. Wait, you guys need money? We'll give you money. So we would position ourselves to be at the forefront with the thought leaders that were leading the charge for Web 2.0. And what Web 3.0 does is it creates that same kind of shift that Web 2 did between Web 2 and Web 1. And how it's doing it, if you think of the current environment, it's really controlled at the corporate level. Companies like Uber, Zoom, Facebook, they control our data, our networks, our content. Uber knows where you live. They know what hotel you stay at, what airline you flew in on at, what restaurants you want to go to. Facebook, I think we've all conceded as a society that Mark Zuckerberg has been listening to me this whole time, and probably Jeff Bezos and Google as well. And at the end of the day, I don't know if I'm that upset with targeted ads. I kind of like, that I get ads about watches or pickleball paddles or stuff that I'm interested in instead of dresses and high heels. What I don't appreciate is the fact that somebody like Mark Zuckerberg is going to make $40 billion off of all of our data. And Zoom got caught, it was about 9-10 months ago. They were sharing everyone's data with their AI. And people flipped out about it. And they backtracked, but it's like, I don't think AI forgets. Like once my data's with your AI, I think it's there. And then what's your alternative? If you're like, well, I'm never using Zoom because they did that, you can go to Google Meet, Microsoft Teams. Google and Microsoft are far superior when it comes to mining data than Zoom could ever dream of being. And so what a Web 3.0 environment does is it takes these centralized, corporate controlled platforms and it decentralizes them. This is a really good example, this project. There is no owner of the R-Link project. It's run and owned by the user base and the community base, the node owners that run the blockchain, the users that use the platform, the people that share the platform with others, all have voting rights and they make the rules. And our community voted on this platform. You own your own data if you're a paid user. You control your own data. And we're coming out of beta now, but eventually you'll be able to turn it on where you can unencrypt your data if you choose to. You could unencrypt just certain portions of your data, share it with different aggregators and advertisers, and set parameters. I want to share my first name, email address, age, health history, and location, zip code, and I want to get health insurance quotes for the next 5 days, but I want to make at least $10 from anybody that sends me a quote. And then you hit submit and bang, you might start getting paid. And what we would do is basically the community says, hey, you get 70%, the other 30% runs through the blockchain. And so you can monetize your own data and put the money in your pocket. And again, I felt like if given a choice, humans would choose to own their data versus Mark Zuckerberg owning their data. I think it's kind of a no-brainer. And that's why the World Economic Forum back in 2021 estimated that blockchain technology could disrupt around $867 trillion in traditional markets. This is not a once in a lifetime thing. This is a once thing. And so the question for me as an entrepreneur is, okay, that's much larger than the shift from Web 1.0 to Web 2.0. And the people that were in the middle of those shifts, the world knows them by name. They know who Elon Musk is. He started PayPal. They know Sergey Brin from Google. They know Jeff Bezos from Amazon. They know Mark Zuckerberg. They know Steve Jobs with the smartphone. Like they know who was involved in that transition. Everybody on the planet, they're household names. So the question becomes, who's going to be involved in that transition from Web 2 to Web 3? And can we be involved ourselves and be a key component of that? And the answer is yes. With this platform, which is our fastest growing project in the blockchain ecosystem, and I do believe it'll be the most viral blockchain project in history, we're allowing people to revolutionize video conferencing. And I'll go through a little demo here at the end, but But if you said, hey, I want to be a part of this, there's two ways to do it. You can be a connector, or you can be a node owner. A connector is somebody that uses this platform. If you're using Zoom and you want to save money and you want to share the opportunity to save money versus Zoom, have more bells and whistles, own your data, they can own their data and get digital rewards. You can share this information and earn cryptocurrency, earn digital rewards for doing so. Or you can help us run the blockchain network by purchasing node software and running a node. And it's almost like the thing that Gallo was allowing me to do that I ended up getting it refunded. But our project would be borrowing your computer power and paying you. Again, it's magic internet money, but it's called Rally tokens. This project lives on the Rally blockchain. It doesn't trade. We haven't actively traded it because we're still in beta. It does trade. You can go to Uniswap and, I think the big days will be 20, 30, 40,000 a day in volume, but it's getting ready to start driving revenue into the project, because as we come out of beta, all the revenue from the customers starts going right into the market to buy the token. And so it generates buy-side pressure. The more revenue the company does, the more buy-side pressure on the token. It's the first blockchain really on the planet to drive revenue through the chain. And so if you said, this sounds really good, I want to buy nodes, I always throw the disclaimer in there. The nodes generate magic internet money. And there's a potential that magic internet money is never worth anything. Now, there's a potential like Gallo was where it could be worth a whole lot. It comes down to, are there real users? Is there real world utility? And I remember when I first met with the community and the ecosystem, they introduced me to some of their key lawyers in their decentralized law firm, which is called Blockade. I've worked with several of these lawyers, probably closest with John Madsen, but even Ken Cuccinelli is the head advisor. He was the former attorney general for the state of Virginia and was Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security for 3 years for the United States of America. And so they're making sure that we cross the T's, dot the I's, and we're basically bringing a new flavor to blockchain. Because prior to us and kind of our projects, everything was kind of more an idea, like meme coins, ICOs, where they would sell a bunch of tokens and, oh, we're going to build this, we're going to do that. And then they would never do it, or they would try and fail. I think most of them would never even try. They just tried to pump and dump their token and never really build the project out. But even some that tried to build the project, they could never get the software going. They could never get it live and revenue generating. And so it was in essence a pump and dump. We did the opposite. We're not telling people, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You're on the platform right now. We already built it. And so if somebody said, well, I like this platform, like I think you guys, it's as good as Zoom or better, I want to be a part of this, you can do that. And you can become a connector, sign up for free. And if you sign up and get a free account, there's an academy, you can go through and learn a ton, but you can click the shop button and it'll allow you to purchase nodes. They're not cheap. I think actually it's $5,500 or $5,600 now. Every 100 nodes sold, it goes up $100. I think there's only maybe the current price is like 30 more nodes, or maybe it's less now because that was like a few hours ago. The price goes up fairly quickly. There's more and more people coming into our ecosystem as we're getting ready to come out of beta. But the nodes generate about 3,000 tokens a day. And again, that could be worth not much other than utility. You could use it to pay for your video conferencing platform. And we have a big ecosystem. You could buy food. You could take a ride on a ride share like an Uber, but with our decentralized ride share platform called Revo. So you can use the tokens within our ecosystem. So if worst case scenario, you can still use them. But best case scenario is the global marketplace says, hey, these tokens have real world utility. We want to buy them. We'll give you euro for them. We'll give you dollars. We'll give you Bitcoin or Ethereum for them. And then you can literally, turn those tokens into capital, like fiat, whatever you want to turn it into. And so right now, again, the node price is set for maybe the next 20 or 30 nodes sold, and then it's going to go up. Every 100 nodes sold, it goes up another $100. Once you purchase a node, you want to activate your node. You can load it onto your own computer if you have a Linux or an Apple. For whatever reason, the Windows operating system wasn't keeping the nodes online. And so your nodes have to be turned on or you're not participating in the network. It's kind of like Bitcoin mining. If you have your Bitcoin miner plugged in and it's mining and working, you can get Bitcoin rewards. If you unplug your Bitcoin miner, there's no way for you to get rewards. Very similar here. You got to have your software turned on, the node turned on. I use a third party, which is called Block Fabric. I don't like to host on my own computers because what if my power goes out? What if I'm on vacation? I don't want to lose that day's distribution because I didn't have my nodes online. And so I have a third party that just manages it all for me for, about $5 a month. At scale, they actually give you discounts as you buy more nodes and host through some of these third parties. But once you're running nodes, you can start to see the rewards coming in on a daily basis. And again, for me, I think probably my favorite thing about this project, any blockchain I invested in, I bought Ripple in 2017, Bitcoin in 2013. And obviously those have worked out pretty well for me, but I've also bought a bunch of tokens that didn't work out so well for me. And the problem I think for me was there was nothing I could do to make an impact. Like Elon Musk can tweet about Dogecoin and poof, the price goes up. I'm not that important. If I could do that, I would be tweeting about Dogecoin. I would buy it, then tweet about it, then sell it, then buy it, then tweet about it, then sell it. I'm not important enough to do that stuff. And so what I love most about this type of project, I knew I could add millions of customers onto this type of platform. I just knew it. I was like, man, this is better pricing than Zoom. It saved me on my enterprise level account. I saved $3,400 a year. I was paying over $300 a month because I needed 3 users, up to 1,000 people per meeting, some extra storage on their video side. And what's great with our platform, not only is it better priced, it's easier to present. It's easier to convert sales. Like I can certainly share screen and pull up a PowerPoint, but I just loaded about a minute before we started, I loaded my slides into these, it's called our widgets. And I went through the slideshow with you guys right here inside the platform. If I want to show you guys the price, if you go, well, what is the price? I can actually go into a live website, but I can keep you in platform. What I mean by that is the site I just pulled up on your screen or on your phone, you can scroll. It's at your own pace. Just start scrolling down. Change it from annual to monthly if you want to see what the monthly pricing is. If you scroll to the bottom, it'll show you our comparison against the Zoom webinar plan that was similar to the enterprise plan that I needed. For $50 a month, I get 5 rooms. With Zoom, I only had 3 rooms. I get up to 3,000 attendees per meeting, 20 times the storage, way more bells and whistles. If you scroll back up, you can click on any of these buttons and it'll take you to where the website it's a live active page. Now, if I want to share a video, if someone goes, well, I want to see the video about the project, normally on Zoom, I would change my audio setting from microphone to computer. Then I would share screen. Then I would open YouTube. Then I would click play. I'd wait 5 seconds while some random advertisement was on. Then I would skip the ad and then we'd start watching the video. And there'd probably be lag. That just happens a lot of times. Here, I can go right into video if I want.
Do you ever wish you played a part in a tech revolution
if I want to turn the volume down,
like Facebook, when it was a Harvard student directory, Amazon, when Jeff Bezos ran it from his garage,
backwards,
or
if I say, hey, there's a key part, I
before it
want to
became
pause
the
it, focus on it, I can pause it. And then if I'm done with the video, if I go, okay, it's over, I can finish the video. And then if somebody goes, well, I want to buy the $50 a month package, I can pull up the package and say, yeah, go grab it. It's a hot link. And so for me, this is more of a conversion platform than just a presentation platform. It's a better presentation platform than Zoom, way better at converting sales than Zoom. And it saves me a fortune off of my accounts, even the lowest level. My mom was doing Zoom meetings with like her sister, her best friend and her best friend's sister, paying $13.99 a month because they didn't want the the Zoom to shut down on them at the 45-minute mark or whatever. And so I said, hey, for $9.99 a month, you can get a better platform. And I told her you get digital rewards. I didn't explain cryptocurrency to my mom. I just said, it's like your Panera Bread points where, you get free bagels or whatever after a while, and you can use this to get free service. And now if the token ends up going into the market and rocking, then it's like, yeah, I'll have to call her and go, hey, you want a new car? Let's use your tokens. Like, you don't just need to use it to pay for your meeting software. It's worth a lot more than that. But I figure if that happens, we'll have that conversation, cross that bridge when we come to it. But for me, being able to save my mom money, let her own data, which she really liked that idea, and get rewards, she loved the idea. She didn't need to understand blockchain. She didn't need to understand cryptocurrency. And see, that's the next logical step in the Web3 environment. Entrepreneurs like us, individuals like Byron, they're going to create ways to bring grandma and grandpa into the blockchain, just like they brought everybody into the internet. See, the nerds, and I say that lovingly, they got blockchain to where it's at today, just like they got the internet to where it was in the 80s and the early 90s. But then it took the Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos, the Sergey Brins, the Mark Zuckerbergs, it took these entrepreneurs to go, how do I bring it to the masses? Like, my mom doesn't know what HTML is. She doesn't know what an SSL certificate is, but she can watch her shows on Netflix. She can pay her credit card bill. She can check her bank statement. She can order stuff on Amazon. The internet makes her life easier, makes it more convenient, more efficient, and she didn't need to understand it. Blockchain is going to make it even better for all of us. The question becomes, what entrepreneurs are going to help to spread the word and help create projects that everyone can participate in? And that's what we've done. So what I would tell you is, hey, get connected with who invited you onto this R link. We call these meetings rallies, who invited you onto the rally, and they'll send you a free link to get into the ecosystem. Sign up for free, go through the academy, start learning about what is Bitcoin, what is blockchain, what is Ethereum. If you already know that stuff, you can go into, hey, what is a smart contract, staking masterclass. You can go into high level classes in the academy. If you have what's called a win node, you can actually earn while you learn. You can earn cryptocurrency if you pass the courses. And so we want to educate people about the platforms, about the projects. But what's great is if you go, man, I don't know much about blockchain, but I got a lot of people that use Zoom and they're tired of paying more and more. Zoom's been raising their prices. They're tired. They were upset when Zoom shared everybody's data with the AI, but they don't have anywhere else to go. It's like, well, now they do. And if you said, all I want to do is talk about that, you could earn a lot of tokens just by helping us build the community. So I can tell you, I really appreciate you guys sharing your time with us to learn more about who we are, what we're doing. And obviously,